Yeah, I know. It's been a week. So here I am. And the beat goes on. Maybe I'll name this video "And the Beat Goes On." Because it seems to be endlessly going on and on and on. It's a tape loop, people. I was watching some more. Oh, first of all, if the lights go weird, it's because I'm sitting in my man cave with the door open and there's clouds, and I just got out of the pool. Oh boy, that felt good. Air temperature, I'd say 82, water temperature about 79. Just relaxing, enjoying the day, enjoying nature, enjoying the moment, let's say. Because that's all we have is the moment, isn't it? So enjoy. I was watching video today on the war footage. I laugh, but I'm not really laughing, but I'm laughing. I saw this one video today where a bunch of Ukrainian soldiers were setting up a piece of artillery in some unknown spot near Donbass, setting up a piece of artillery, and there was a truck there that was covered, a regular troop carrier type truck, and big piece of a howitzer, it looked like, maybe 155 millimeter. They're all excited. They're all sitting there setting this stuff up, and from the air you see a shot from a drone, a Russian drone, zooming in and zooming out and calibrating. Next thing you know, there's a big flash, smoke, and fire, and that is Katie bar the door. Can you imagine standing there thinking you're safe or something, and all of a sudden there's this big flash, and that's the last thing you remember before the shock wave hits you, is a big flash and the shock wave, and boom, your history. So yeah, the war is dragging on. What a way to go. I guess it's instantaneous. I guess these people have a fervent death wish. Why would you go and fight in a war that is already lost? Makes no sense whatsoever. That's how senseless life is sometimes. That's how ludicrous things can be. War is hell, and all kinds of people are being vaporized. At last count, I think there was a strike by the Russians. 500 Ukrainian soldiers, if you want to call them that, vaporized in a second. And you got, this is just an update for all you people that can't watch the stuff I watch or gather the intel that I gather. It's an update. And you still got the West out there. On one hand, from some of the mainstream media admitting that the Ukrainian war is basically lost. Ukraine no longer exists. Not really. And then on the other hand, you got them still sending weapons and doing all kinds of little NATO tricks with different countries like Lithuania, who is effectively cut off, I think it's Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad? Could be one of those. Probably Kaliningrad, which is a small enclave separated by land where the Lithuanian country surrounds it, and Russia usually sends in goods and services to a part of their country. And all of a sudden, the people in Lithuania are saying, oh, we're not going to let goods and services go through on the rail anymore. And so basically it's just another little instigation trumped up and thought up by the people in the West, the Americans, the cabal, the elite, the think tanks of the West. So what's happening in the war? Well, these Ukrainians are losing big time. In fact, basically Ukraine as it was before doesn't exist anymore. But yet you still have these NATO blowhards, people that aren't really leaders, that weren't really elected by their people, as is nothing in politics. Nobody is really elected. It's more or less like you think you're voting, and through nefarious activity, somebody all of a sudden gets in office. Okay, like Macron in the last French election. Nobody likes that guy. How would he ever get back in office? Yet there he is, back in office. So basically, the sham continues worldwide. The pathetic thing is that, and I say the beat goes on, I might have touched on some of this stuff in my last video, but the money is still going out to God knows where. Millions and billions of dollars being sent to Ukraine, yet Ukraine is losing. Does that make sense to you? Your hard-earned tax dollars going over to a country that's losing, and they don't even know where that money's going, really. They admit it. It's like, it's crazy. And you got the same drumbeat over here going on with the blame game. Everything is blamed on Russia. I mean, that dog is getting so old, okay? It don't hunt no more. That's an old dog that don't hunt no more. Yet they keep trying. They keep putting out this false information. Those of us who gather intel from on the ground and see what's going on over there readily see that it's a useless situation. Wonder what happens though after it's clearly evident to, let's say, all the people. Oh, we got a thunderstorm going outside here. Got a thunderstorm and the door is going to close. Hold on, people. The wind is blowing the door. Oh, there it goes. Hey, you can still see my glasses. I'm going to have to get up a minute and open the door. So bear with me. Okay, I'm back. Got to put on my microphone. I'll clip it on my hair here. Isn't that interesting? Sorry about that, but you get a nice little break from me yakking all the time, right? Get a nice little break from thunder, from blah bitty blah blah blah. Where was I? What's going to happen when it becomes clearly evident that the war is lost in Ukraine and all the money that the West is sending over to Ukraine was for no good reason at all? Do you think anything will happen with the American consciousness, and do you think people will be able to rub two brain cells together to create a spark and go, all our money went over there like a giant sucking sound and nothing. What was it for? They lied. Will they realize that the media and the mainstream media and Biden and the Hillary crew and the Democrats, the Democrats, that's what people call them, and the rhinos and all these people that are supposedly running this country lie, 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 lie. That's about it. How long are you going to tolerate this stuff? How long? Is there any reason to tolerate this stuff any longer? And here we got the blame game still going on. I'm telling you, this is like a tape loop. You still got the blame game, and they keep saying the same things over and over and over again. It's Russia's fault that the gas is $5 plus, and somewhere in California it might be $9. And it's Russia's fault that there's inflation that's going into stagflation. And it's Russia's fault. How long, like I said before, will this dog hunt? Think about it. Because right before your very eyes, the middle class is dissolving. It's melting. It is not going to make it. It's on life support. Well, America's on life support, you see. Because all the sanctions that the West and NATO and the West and the puppets and all the little minions, it's really pathetic that these people that are over in Europe have to suffer too, because these sanctions completely backfire. And they actually push Russia towards China and the Eurasian connection and the BRICS nations, which are Brazil and India and Africa and those nations. Well, now they're all going like, okay, well, this is basically over. Putin gave a speech in St. Petersburg at the World Economic Forum, or no, not the World Economic Forum. What am I thinking? It was just a speech in regards to the world economy. And of course, Putin got up there without any kind of teleprompter and a few notes and talked for an hour straight, eloquently. Can you imagine Biden trying to talk for an hour straight, eloquently? It's pathetic. I saw this meme, and It's hilarious. It's a picture of Biden, and he's got this blank look, and he's staring off into space. And the caption reads, "Who shit my pants?" I mean, that's hilarious, man. That about sums it up. So anyway, Putin gave this beautiful speech. He's a real leader. He knows what he's doing. About how the West no longer mattered. It's irrelevant. The West it's done, it's over. There's no like we're gonna try to make friends with the West or America anymore. It's over. Basically, he put it right on the line. They're off to new and better horizons. Okay, they've got their new Silk Road going. They got commerce going back and forth between China and these other BRICS nations that I mentioned earlier. And the ruble, which they tried to destroy with the sanctions, is at an all-time high against the dollar and the euro. It really is. It really does remain to be seen where this might go from here. Of course, we know the agenda of the West is to completely destroy our country, its own country. It's like a mother feeding on its young, and it's the same old story with the agenda, shall I say, the agenda. Truckers, I saw another video to update you, truckers are like hunting around for truck stops to get gas. No diesel fuel at some places. Well, no diesel fuel, no trucks, no trains maybe, although the trains are still going strong. But no trucks means problems. No trucks is how you get all your goods and services from the intermodal facilities where the trains unload the containers and the trucks pick up all the goods and bring them to markets, supermarkets, and big box stores, and construction stores, and all these different places. If that don't happen, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. But it's Russia's fault. I don't know. Then they're still continually pushing the gun agenda. Oh, by the way, they're going to destroy that last school that the shooting was in, Uvalde, Texas. They voted to destroy the school, to tear it down. Well, there goes evidence. Because, see, they know they're getting sued. And they know that the cops waited a good 70 minutes. And they know that the cops had complete protection, shields, guns, and they know that the door wasn't locked now like they said it was. So the more that's revealed, the more you realized it was a planned operation. Another false flag. I know I mentioned this in my video, but there's little details that are starting to surface about how ridiculous the whole thing was or is. Just another method to try to emotionally affect people so that they will cave in, or let's say try to influence other people in regards to whether we need firearms in this country. So there you have two things that are, you got the proxy war in Ukraine to try to make Russia weak. Then you got the school shootings and other shootings. Then you got the supposed supply line shortage. Then you also have things like some of these warmongers like Blinken and other people in the current administration that are putting out the narrative, and even Biden said, well, if anybody attacks Taiwan, we're going to make sure that they pay the price. Well, that's like saying to China, well, even though Taiwan is a part of your country, and we've freely admitted that in the past, if you try to do anything, we're going to use military force. Can we say suicidal? Can we say that's a suicidal statement to China? Because China isn't having any of that shit. They know Taiwan is theirs, and so now you got the West trying to provoke another Ukraine type incident by saying volatile things that they know is going to irritate the fuck out of China. You see what we got running this country here? Bunch of morons. Bunch of school kids, really. And are the generals any better? Hey, I've watched interview after interview after interview with people in the know that really are truth tellers. People like Scott Ritter, who was a weapons inspector back remember in the Iraq War, he pulled the covers on this supposed weapons of mass destructions. He was a whistleblower. I watch him. I watch a guy called Patrick Lancaster, who is on the ground in Ukraine. These are my sources that I go to. I watch an interview with Colonel McGregor, or it's General McGregor, who sometimes appears on Fox News. Of course, they want to get him off of Fox News, and they want to get him off of any other network that doesn't want to hear the truth. And McGregor has outright said that the war is over in Ukraine. He's a very valued resource. Scott Ritter has said the war is over in Ukraine. They have lost. It's like a tape loop after tape loop after tape loop. It keeps revolving and revolving. Yes, the war is lost, but it does go on, and because it's a slow attrition. In the meantime, while the war's going on, these Nazis that are flailing around in their last throes of death are shooting artillery shells to innocent people in Donetsk and Luhansk and Donbass, which is the eastern part of Ukraine, which is they were doing that anyway. That's why Russia went in, to protect the Slavic Russian people there. They were doing that anyway, but now they're intensifying it because they know they're losing. So what are they trying to do? Take as many civilians as possible. Let's keep in mind that the West is supplying these Nazi losers with all the weapons they want. And these shells that are being lobbed in there are 155 millimeter, which are directly out of the howitzer, which I mentioned earlier, where the guys got blown up. So Russia is fighting a slow battle trying to take out all these emplacements and these new weapons that the West is shipping in. They don't just go indiscriminately, the Russians don't go in indiscriminately and fire on places where these shells are coming from the Ukrainians. Because why? Because the Ukrainians are sandwiching themselves in between people's houses and apartment buildings and stuff you will never hear reported in the mainstream media of the USA. You won't hear this stuff, ever. You won't ever hear the truth here, not again. Although some of it, like I said, is seeping out through articles, independent writers in the New York Times and stuff like that. So the West keeps pushing and aggravating and making obscene, making NATO and their members and their leaders say obscene things or ridiculous things. That make no sense at all, like today, just to irritate Russia. NATO has decided to accept Ukraine as a candidate. Well, that doesn't mean shit. A candidate doesn't mean shit. If you're a member, that's different. But to be a candidate, to be a member, well, they've always been a candidate. They've always been. And how are you going to make a member out of a country, Ukraine, in NATO? How are you going to do that when Ukraine, for all practical purposes, doesn't exist anymore? It doesn't exist. So that's all posturing, all this bloviating and talking heads about we're sending weapons and we're getting new countries into NATO. Then on the other hand, just to show you how ridiculous this shit all is, the NATO members that are imposing these sanctions and saying all this stuff and being so hardline and we're going to make you pay Russia for going into a war that we instigated in the first place. As they're saying this, goods and services from Russia, which they depended on for decades, oil, computer parts, grain, even the United States can't get a certain metal that they're making their ammunition with here in the United States, the military. Let's see. How about uranium for power plants around there? All this stuff comes from Russia. Well, when they gave the green flag to make all these sanctions against Russia, it all backfired, like I said before. And these people that are so brazen and so bullish on tormenting Russia are suffering horribly with shortages of gas, which makes shortages of everything else, because gas runs machinery, runs cars, runs everything. So all of a sudden there's massive food shortages in Europe, all over, in Africa, in all kinds of places. Yet they still continue on with their bravado, and the people in all these countries like Germany and France and all of Europe are suffering and are going to suffer more this winter. There will be untold scores of deaths from not having heating and not having fuel and not having food, and fuel prices going up so high that they can't afford to pay their rent, or it's either pay your rent or heat your house. Don't think that that isn't going to affect America. It already is. It already is. You know that. Go to the store and try to buy a steak, or go to the store and try to buy a lot of different kinds of food. You'll see the prices are going up exponentially. Go to the gas station and fill up your tank and see how much it costs you. And yet here we are. The majority of the people in America, I won't say this for other nations, but the majority of the people in America are sitting around with their thumb up their ass, thinking that this is all just going to go away pretty soon. Hello? When you start hitting stagflation and inflation and shortages of food and planned depopulation. That's another thing too. They're still trying to do the... Biden came out and said, get ready for another pandemic. Really? Really, Biden? Is this a tape loop again that we have to ignore? See how they keep trying to pull that same card out? Yeah, let's use the pandemic card, the lockdown card, the health card, just when people are starting to feel good. Or let's use the Ukraine card, or let's use the war card, or let's use the supply economics financial disaster card, or let's use this card, or let's use that card. You see what kind of evil fucks are running this country? The Davos crowd, the World Economic Forum. We don't know where this is going to go. We don't know. It's too fluid. It is this fluidity. Yeah, so this is a little update because I feel obligated to come in and do this stuff sometimes, because I do have some new subscribers and they're probably wondering, where'd this guy go? If you're new here, I do things when I want to do them. I'm not one of these guys that comes on every 5 minutes and asks for money and Venmo me and support my channel, and that's not me. I'm just here to be a wisdom keeper and to try to pass on intel and maybe some spiritual remedies for all this, which I'll probably get more into later. Kind of hate to mix the two. There are remedies for this. There are ways to view this whole situation so that you don't get... The last thing you want to do is give it any power, any anxiety, any fear, any... Let me emphasize that. Don't get fearful by anything I say. Look at it as a show, a circus. It's all going to work out because evil is always going to go down. So try to keep your mind in a state of unattached consciousness, saying things but not getting attached. Is it good to be prepared? Well, yeah, it's good to be prepared. I have a generator and food and plenty of water, and I'm out in the middle of the desert and I'm away from cities, and so I'm prepared about as much as you can be. I have self-protection, plenty of, let's say, weaponry. So I'll sit around and I'll watch things as an interested observer. And I'll pass things on to you. And that's about all I can do. I mean, try to get your consciousness into the state where you're projecting a different kind of world than the one we're seeing. We're all creators. We all create with our thought. And we all are very, very powerful. And see, that's what they're afraid of. That's what they're afraid of. They don't want you powerful. They don't want you taking back your power. They don't want you pushing against their agenda. Their agenda is falling apart, though. Everything that they do falls apart. Why? Because they're not on that right frequency. They're not on that vibe. They're not on that being a warrior of Mother Earth vibe. They're going to be destroyed. They're all going to go down. So that's something I'll end on today. Sorry about the door closing there, but shit happens. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Adios.